Good morning. This is Module 3 of Corpus Linguistics. Module 3, Utilization of Corpus. This module actually describes the benefits of corpus, relates to the general use of the corpus, highlights the specialized use of the corpus, identifies the domains of corpus use, as well as finally identifies the corpus uses. So first, we will concentrate on the introduction. The generative criticism against empirical linguistics is much subdued over the years now. Yet some staunch supporters of generative genre still like to argue that linguistics is a branch of cognitive psychology, where corpus is the most unrevealing element. Therefore, study of language by virtue of empirical data is essentially uninteresting. It is true that corpus-based language essentially cannot encompass the generative power of language usage, since it aims at to deal with what is actually used and not what could have been used. While generative linguists visualize language as a system of linguistic use integrated with sets of generative rules, corpus linguistics is interested to see to what extent these rules are manifested in actual use of language. It is also interested to attest if evidences could be accounted for to identify the essential rudiments of linguistic rules and systems that people use in all possible linguistic interactions. In reality, however, empirical language data is not a poor reflection of linguistic competence of a human being. It is found that a great majority of utterances are truly grammatical, with a few exceptions, which supports the arguments of generative linguists also. Even a hardcore corpus linguist does not claim that all the sentences included in corpus are grammatically valid or acceptable. But to claim that performance data is degenerated is an exaggeration and distortion of truth triggered from the lack of understanding about the corpus. We would like to identify what are the benefits of corpus we can have. First, there are many benefits of corpus-based language study in all areas of linguistics, both from theoretical side as well as from applicational side. It is a powerful method which is scientific, empirical, realistic, and open to any kind of objective verification and validation. There is no denial of the truth that the fact quantitative data is necessary not only in language technology, but also in many other fields of language application. As for example, we need quantitative data in dictionary compilation, analysis of discourse, language teaching, speech analysis, even in translation also. So quantitative data has certain amount of importance even in applied and theoretical linguistics. Within the mainstream of descriptive linguistics, language data is the only resource on which the faithful description of a language is possible. History has enough evidence to show that many successful approaches to speech analysis have heavily relied on the quantitative data obtained from the speech data made in the form of speech corpora itself. In case of language teaching, for example, definite quantitative information about the occurrence of various properties of language are important for teaching the rudiments of language to the learners. So not only the phonemes, morphemes, words and sentences, also many other properties wherefrom frequency related information become relevant to the learners. So in language teaching also we find importance of corpus or quantitative data. Due to these advantages, in fact, criticism against corpus linguistics, although partially succeeded at its initial stage has now stopped because it has failed to stop the works of corpus generation and application in all those areas. Both in phonetics and speech analysis, naturally occurring speech data have remained as an essential source of evidence where neither introspection nor intuition have any role to play. In the area of language acquisitions also, observation on naturally occurring evidences have been treated as authentic and for validation and verification. And since no importance or introspection judgments are allowed to have in language acquisitions. Even Chomsky himself has agreed to this point that in the cases of language acquisition state analysis, we need actual data produced by the infants or language learners, how they are, to analyze how they actually produce language, in which way they actually do. So here, performance data has tremendous relevance. The empirical data, performance data, which is formed in the frame of a corpus, can have tremendous importance in analyzing the linguistic skills of the learners. It is true that at the initial stage, the generative school had a strong criticism towards corpus linguistics. Gradually, in the last 3 or 4 decades, we have come across that in spite of criticisms of the generative schools, particularly led by Chomsky and his supporters, all across the globe, in different parts, particularly in US and in UK or Europe, many teams are engaged now who are directly using corpora of different types, different kinds, to carry out their research. The reality is that even if there was strong criticism against that, use of corpora did not stop. We would try to understand how this has happened and why it has happened. So, in 1961, when Randolph Clark and his colleagues started to develop survey of English usage in Britain, and Nelson, Francis and Henry Kuchera started to develop the Brown corpus in Brown University, UK, the number of corpora are very less in number. So over the years, we noted that the development of corpus activities has expanded to such a great extent that within the next 50 years, we have come across, if I am not mistaken, more than 2,000 different types of corpora are developed in various languages across the globe. I am giving a data from here where it has been noted that within 2000 we have got more than 2000 plus corpora now available for usage, and it is expected that if we don't exaggerate the scene, by the end of this decade, we can have nearly 10,000 more digitally available corpora usable across the globe for different purposes. The basic argument is that generation of corpus of various types didn't stop at all, even if we had stringent criticisms by generative schools and others. It has been growing on and in full swing. But that does not, however, confirm that corpus doesn't have limitations. Indeed, it has. And we would like to identify those limitations from the perspective of others who have criticized about the value of corpus and try to understand how the team of corpus linguists are trying to overcome those limitations. Let us first concentrate on General purpose of corpus use, general use of corpus. Some questions which are relevant here. It is, why are people interested to use corpus? Whenever we are developing a corpus, we would like to ask certain vital questions. What is the use of corpus? First, who will be using it? Where it will be used? How it will be used? What purpose will it serve in general linguistics? How it can benefit applied linguistics? How does it contribute to language technology? So these are some of the basic questions which generally come up. Since this module emphasizes on utilization of corpora, these important questions should be addressed one by one, and we try to understand how corpus is percolating in all domains of linguistic research and development activities. Now, the question is, why corpus is so important? In our argument, corpus is a large diluted source of language data, which also works as a yardstick for linguistic and non-linguistic verification and authentication. Second important part is, corpus is now used also as a test bed for training and testing of the devices, tools, and techniques that are being developed in the area of language technology. Keeping these two general factors into mind, we try to understand the relevance of corpus in different perspectives. First, let us assume that corpus is an indispensable resource for developing system, tools, software for language technology work. Corpus is also a very valuable resource for general language description, language analysis, and language teaching and training. Also, corpus is a treasure house of huge lexical databases, dictionaries, thesauruses, reference books, and course books also. Corpus is very ready-made and a very handy resource for multi-purpose linguistic and non-linguistic usage and references. Most importantly, corpus is a customizable text for studying any particular aspect of interest relating to life, language, and society. So what is important here is that language corpora has two important utility functions. One is here related to the linguistics in the core areas: descriptive linguistics, applied linguistics, language computation, language teaching, language applications. This is one side. The another side is that the same language resource, same language data, same language corpus has also tremendous relevance in non-linguistics but other socio-linguistic, socio-cultural domains: cultures, habits, lifestyle, society, everything. In those areas also, language corpora are utilized as important resource for study. So we find that corpus has become very much relevant for our researches. To sum up here, it is a general database to reflect on the present state and patterns of use of language. In written form, we are talking about written corpus only. Speech data is a different part which is not been addressed now. I'll talk about this, how it can be developed and utilized in different ways. So we are for the time being, we are concentrating on text corpus. So text corpora can be used as a principal data and source of data, resource and examples for all other purposes and usage. Statistical information obtained from general corpus is useful in preparing textbooks and reference materials, building systems for character recognition, developing speaking checking systems, grammar checking systems, and many other tools. Next, it will be used as a reliable resource for all kinds of NLP works. Using information from it, we can develop various text processing tools like parts of speech tagging, morphological analysis, morphological generation, lemmatization, concordance, lexical collocation, parsing, text annotation tools, corpus compressing tools, and many other things, which are all relevant for language technology works. In fact, generation and subsequent analysis applications of those tools on a general corpus will make the work of information retrieval from corpus an easier task. Moreover, application of these tools make language research, education, teaching, application far more easier, effective, and reliable. So, what we find is that there are many other applications of corpus. I am quoting one important reference part from Jan Sartik, which was given say maybe in 1986. I am just reading out from the text that according to Sartik, corpus has multi-purpose usages. It is not only confined to linguistics, language technology, and other disciplines. Information and data can be used from corpus in lexicography, lexicology, syntax, semantics, word formation, parsing, question answer synthesis, software development, spelling checkers, speech synthesis and recognition, text to speech conversion, pragmatics, text linguistics, language teaching and learning, stylistics, machine translation, child language acquisitions, psycholinguistics, sociolinguistics, theoretical linguistics, corpus clones in other languages such as Arabic and Spanish, well, even language and sex also. So what we find that corpus has tremendous use in all possible areas of human knowledge, wherever language has a relevance. So once we identify corpus to be used in all domains, we need to identify specific use of the corpus. So it is a general use. Now let us look at the specific, what kind of specific use are normally observed in cases of corpus. Now if we try to be exactly specific to pinpoint where a particular type of corpus is used in what kind of purpose, let us sum up in that way. A raw corpus is used to aid prepare and revise texts of various types. That is attested one. Speech corpus has more specific use in speech technology, like identifications of sounds, identifications of segments, combinations of segments, and other properties of normal speech, as well as in speaker identification, speech identification, text to speech conversion, and other activities. On the other hand, if it is a text corpus, it is directly used in analyzing the spelling errors of words, search out lexical items, lemmatize inflected words, parse sentences, disambiguate words in contexts, and many other things. On the other hand, if we have an annotated text corpus, it is highly useful in cases of translation, both by man and machine, as well as in language teaching, as well as machine learning. Dialect corpus is maximally used in language and dialect description and analysis, identifying how a particular dialect is different from other dialect and how a dialect is similar or dissimilar from the main standard variety. Comparable corpus, parallel corpus, translation corpus are also used in machine translation, cross-lingual information retrieval, cross-lingual language identification, machine learning, and various other activities. Monitor corpus is a unique kind of corpus which has specific use, particularly in cases of dictionary compilation, lexicographical studies, lexicological analysis, translation, and lexicological researches. Educative corpus is a specific kind of corpus which is used as a model to teach learners about the various aspects of language use and teaching the grammars and training them in the different types of stylistic variations of language use in different contexts. So what we mean here is that corpus is used not only for general purposes, we can have also specific corpora for specific purposes. So now we are coming to the next point, who are the corpora? This is a very vital question. So as you know that corpus is growing in size, in content, in texture, information. So it is not a very difficult task to identify people who are interested in language data or corpus language data for their researches and activities. So we can take various socio-linguistic variables like time, place, genre, topic, region, sex, age, profession, ethnicity, and others in deciding who are the users of language corpora. In a vast society, people have different opinions, different likings, different interests, different preferences. And based on their interest and preference, they can go for a specific kind of corpus for the research work. Broadly, so far as you understood that there are people who belong to the area of computational linguistics, natural language processing, and language technology. This is the first group. These people are highly dependent on corpora because they require data in a very large load, statistically marked and analyzed to develop their systems and tools, to train their modules, and to develop devices. They want real-life language data in the form of the corpus. The second group of people who are also interested in language data are dictionary people, dictionary compilers, dictionary makers, language teachers, grammar writers, textbook writers, and translators. They have also a lot of requirements of corpora because they need to identify which words they need to include in their dictionary, what are the uses, varieties of those words, what are the sense variations these words denote, how this can be accounted for, how reference to the uses can give a better concept, better idea, better understanding of the words. So not only the dictionary compilers, but language teachers also require this information. They also need to know how words are formed, how words are decomposed, what kind of meaning is embedded, and all those things. So grammar writers, textbook writers, translators, all those people require huge corpus and information extracted thereof to use their different works. The next group, the third group, is a larger one. They are not only coming from the field of linguistics, but also some similar sister disciplines. Say people coming from descriptive linguistics, historical linguistics, or comparative linguistics, general semantics, lexicology, sociolinguistics, ecolinguistics, psycholinguistics, ethnolinguistics, dialectology, and others. All those people are also require huge amount of data to understand the texture of the language, the information embedded into the text, the mentality or the mind or the goal or the motive or emotions involved into texts, socioclimatic, sociological or sociolinguistic information embedded into text, geoclimatic information are there. So all those people are also interested to have language corpus in large chunk to understand their specific needs. So what we can understand, broadly define, that language corpus users are basically three types. We call them language specialists who are actually interested in language of texts. Second group constitute content specialists, those who are not interested into the text itself, but interested in the content of the text. Third group, media specialists, they want corpus, neither the language nor the content, but they want corpora as test beds of their systems and tools. Now let us see how those three kinds of people use corpora in their activities. Among language specialists, let us see the lexicographers. What they do? That they refer to corpus. Why? Because they want to find out, say, the most frequently used words they want to select to include in the dictionary. So it is the corpus that can give you the most authentic data for them. To generate their lexical database, as well as to identify their actual specific usages of terms, lexims, phrases, idioms, proverbs, and other components which are available in the language. They need those to be accumulated, compiled in different separate lexical databases to compile their dictionaries. Same thing happens with the terminographers or terminologists. They want to extract all scientific and technical terms from the corpus, understand how these are used in actual texts, and they want to compile bilingual or multilingual or even monolingual scientific and technical term databases. And for this, they need large corpora. The people who are working in the area of thesaurus compilation or say dictionary of synonyms, antonyms, polysemies and others, they also are heavily dependent on corpora, because for them a huge load of information relating to the meaning, sense disambiguation, ambiguity and other aspects of words are actually available from corpora. So they cannot avoid the use of corpora in dictionary compilations. So think of the language teachers who are the content specialists. They also need data. Think of the sociologists, historians, language critics, literary critics, and people who are involved in advertisements. They also need to have reference to corpora, identify how the people who are doing historical linguistics, they need to know how the language has, or the words have changed their patterns of usage across years. And for that they need a huge diachronic corpus to identify the sense variations of words across decades or across centuries, or they also need to know which words have been used earlier times but no longer used, they are dead or defunct or obsolete. On the other hand, they also need to know how new words have come up. So this neologism is an important area of research where the historical linguists need large diachronic corpora to identify how the words have undergone changes in their meaning, in the usage across centuries. For them it is also very important part. For example, last, the media specialists. I am talking about media specialists means not the mass media, I am talking about the people who are involved in language technology or computational linguistics or natural language processing. So you know that any technique or tool they need to develop, they need to have large access of corpus data, language data in message readable form. So they need many supporting tools and devices. So for developing their systems for the purpose of machine learning. So they need to extract relevant data from the corpus. What I emphasize here is that nothing is possible in language technology or computational linguistics until and unless the system, the tools, the devices are adequately trained with huge amount of data extracted from language corpus. So what we find here is that corpus, there are various ways how language corpora can be utilized in not only in mainstream linguistics but also in other domains. The truth is, there is no dearth of corpus users. Our recent experience dealing with language data and identifying corpus users, we have found that people are coming from different walks of life, different professions of life, who are directly or indirectly referring to the language data now available in digital form in the form of corpus. Starting from linguists to spelling experts to social scientists, even students, all of them are using corpora in different capacities in some way or other to address their specific linguistic needs. So, if I here to sum up is that we can come up with three different perspectives. First thing is that in main linguistics and language related activities and work, corpora is one of the primary resources. It can be manipulated, utilized, accessed for starting from descriptive linguistics to language teaching or analysis of discourse. This is the main frame of linguistics where corpus has a tremendous role to play. Second part is language technology. People working in the area of language technology and related areas have to depend on corpora to retrieve data, language data, to develop their systems and tools. Third part, which is not related directly with linguistics, but other domains of social science, history, culture, anthropology. These people also referring language corpora to substantiate their arguments, to make new observations, to find out new things about in their respective research areas. So what we find is that corpus has multi-purpose usages, and if this is so, then there is some well-defined or well-desired argument is that keeping in mind the multi-purpose use of corpora in various domains of human knowledge, as a corpus developer, we have to be very much responsible and careful so that the resources which we generate, the resource which we process, the resource which we digitize are actually utilizable by the end users. I personally believe that in years to come, utility of corpus would be manifold, would be expanded more and more. It will be utilized in many other domains of human knowledge. So, it is obligatory on the part of the corpus designers to be more careful in development of corpora so that the resources are ready for future usages and references. Thank you.